Ladies and gentlemen, it is 6 o'clock, 6:30, excuse me. We call the meeting to order.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, call of the roll. Warnke.
Rob, present.
Yes. I'll try again. Warnke.
Present.
There we go. Adler.
Present.
Fordyce.
Present.
Schaefer.
Present.
Tess.
Present.
Is anybody else confused yet?
Yes.
On to number 4, approval of the agenda.
Motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Warnke. Yes.
I thought we were gonna have to remove 6F through I.
We can either pull those out now, or we can hold off and table those until the next meeting.
Okay.
Either or count. We'll touch on that really quick then. 6, F, G, H, and I. Council, I don't know if you noticed or not, or re-noticed, I guess I should say, Katie had pointed out last Thursday when she sent out the agenda that the reports of financials were not available due to, I'm going to say, some technical issues, which I will let them touch on if they would like to. The reports are still not available, so we cannot rightly approve those at this time. If we'd like to remove them out now, you guys can do that. If you'd like to table them, we can do that. You can either or.
Wouldn't we have to remove now or no?
Sure, but it might
It
as well.
doesn't matter.
Whichever you guys would like. We have
What was the story with Gov Connect on, or Edmonds?
So
what happened
when
was.
we were doing the January 30th payroll, I was doing it. I talked to somebody there and they said, before we always made them as general ledger batches. And I said, well, we make that a PO batch, will that get it on the claims list? And that's what we did, but the software couldn't handle it. So we have like half of the entry and we have a larger number on the books coming out of the bank than what actually came out of the bank. So it's just a matter of getting them to help me fix it. And I did talk to them this morning and hopefully we'll have, it's just a journal entry at this point because I don't think their software is going to be able to handle it otherwise.
Okay. So we should have those for the March meeting, then, is what you're thinking?
Yeah, I'm hoping like sooner than
That's good.
that.
No, that's
I
fine.
don't want to drag it out that long.
Yeah, agreed.
So with that being said, let's do it this way then. I know we had the motion in the second to approve it. Let's, the approval of the agenda with the exception of 6, F, G, H, and I. We will strike those, or I guess table would be a better term perhaps. Until the next scheduled meeting.
Okay.
If that works for you guys.
Yep.
So, just for sake of, yeah, so motion and a second to then reapprove the amended agenda.
I motion to approve the amended agenda.
Second.
Notating, again, the removal of 6, F, G, H, and I from the agenda. Warnke.
Aye.
Edler.
Aye.
Fordyce.
Aye.
Schaefer.
Aye.
Hess.
Aye.
Okay, very good. On to number 5, citizen hearing and other communications. We'll start off with Lieutenant, Polk County Sheriff.
Lieutenant Hunt, Polk County Sheriff's Office. So a month of January was 68 calls for service up here. Nothing out of the ordinary other than we did have a couple weeks ago the house fire on Trent Avenue. Other than that, they also reached out, at least somebody did, to our agency about a speed trailer. Joe Altringer called me.
Okay.
We are still working with the vendors to figure out price-wise what those are. Whether or not you want a mobile one or if you want a stationary one that you can put either coming into town, either way, but we're getting prices for both.
Okay.
And
Yeah,
then,
we had, I would say, yeah, we had met with, a quick 30-second clip note. We had, Katie and I had met with Representative Altringer earlier, last week on Friday, and that was one of our requests of, if it's possible, if we could possibly get one that's either our own or maybe we share or something to that effect. So that's where that stemmed from as far as that phone call. Because there's been requests in the past, there's been requests to have them stationed in town, and you guys only have so much to go around and so many places and higher demand, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Sure.
So
And
that's where that request stems
The
from.
mobile one would make more sense, I think,
Right.
for us personally, yeah.
Okay. I will hopefully have those numbers for the next meeting. If I get them before then, I will email them to the city. And then the request, if you want to use the ones that we have, you just have to make a request to Captain Trevor Barber. And then he sets all that stuff up as far as bringing them up here, set them up, and then whatever duration that you guys need to use them for.
Great.
Council, any other questions, comments, or anything for Lieutenant? No. Very good, so thanks so much. You're welcome to hang out, stay, whatever you need to do. So,
We're busy.
understand as always.
Thank you.
On to letter B, Scott Drey, our fire chief.
I never live up to his numbers. Damn shame.
Isn't that a good thing, though?
Yeah, it is. We had a busy month, busy last 4 weeks, I guess. 25 calls for service. 12 of them were medical, 11 fire, 2 rescues. Majority of those have seemed to come in the last week or 10 days with some grass fires and things of that nature. We've been pretty busy. April 4th, we got the Easter Bunny coming to City Park up here, just like every year. Otherwise, today was a pretty busy day, so I didn't have much time to get too much else accomplished. I think we ran, 3 calls back to back to back. Never left the station, so on top of doing my normal work. Questions?
Passed you guys coming back into town this morning, so, or whoever was in the ambulance this morning.
We stayed busy.
We appreciate it.
Alrighty.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, sir. All right, on to letter C. Any public comments for things not on the agenda? We've got a full house again, once again this evening. We try to stay as close as we can to that 3-minute limit, as best we can, so. Mr. Adams?
Ron Adams here. I got a question. You guys put in, or they put cameras in out to the East Park, and I haven't heard if they've done any good or not. That money you spent, they haven't said, yes, we got vandals. No, we haven't got vandals. They're just lovely pictures of the playground. Or are they doing any good? Or
I've not heard of any additional vandalism or anything since their installation and even prior to that.
I'm just curious because I didn't see anything. The other thing I've noticed that unless the city's excluded from it, I don't see a Knox box on a new water treatment plant. If there happen to be emergency and the door's locked into there, which it usually is, I'm assuming, and they have to get in there to get somebody, aren't that required under city code? Or the firemen just take their chops off the wood, cut a big hole in, then we get to replace the door or side the building or something?
Yeah, I know that's been brought up in the past, whether it was specifically with the water treatment plant or out at Prairie Point, or not Prairie Point Park, excuse me, the industrial park with some of the new complexes going up out there. I know that's been discussed. Where that's at, I can't give you an answer at this moment, but I know that has been brought up before. So
I was just curious. I didn't see one on there, so in
Yep.
case of emergency, they may need to get in.
Sure.
We just talked about that during budgeting and stuff.
Okay.
We had Scott Drey looking at this, so where we're at, I don't know. We talked about it recently.
I think those are probably the meetings I wasn't here for, because I don't remember us
Yes,
talking about
you
it.
were gone.
Yes,
Yes,
yes.
that's what happened.
It was the same conversation around the chemical markings as
Yeah.
well. I think
And
Forrest
OSHA.
possibly was emailed that at B&K, potentially Katie.
I don't know about that.
Okay, yeah, we'll look into it. We'll get an answer for you.
That's it. I was just curious.
Very good, sir. Thank you. Any additional public comments? Yes, sir.
Thank you for giving me this opportunity. My name is John Roberts. I'm with St. Mary's Holy Cross Parish here. Attend St. Mary's Church here, but I'm primarily here just to bring some awareness for now, because nothing is moving other than us looking into putting asphalting or paving our parking lot here at St. Mary's. And I did bring some pictures just to help, I guess. I only brought, sorry, I got there's. I brought 6. I apologize. My
No,
printer, the ink is getting a little bit.
and I think we've got some here as well that were
Okay.
provided to us as well, so.
So quickly, I guess, that, what you had probably is what Katie provided. I sent an email to her originally. What I've done is just simply, oh no, that'd be one of those. So what this picture shows is kind of a overview of our property line, at least that part of it, and roughly where the parking lot is going to be. The only thing, it's all gonna be on our property, of course, which I'm toll does not require us to get a permit. So, that's the first item I was checking on. The next thing is the intersection of Northwest Washington and Northwest Elm. And as you can see, we're gonna be coming fairly close to that. Right now, that intersection, at least once you get past, or I guess where Northwest Elm starts, it's what they call chip seal. And that actually extends on into our, which is basically Northwest Washington, across the front of our church.
Okay.
For us, that's all gonna be ground up. And then they've got to do some excavating and stuff to prepare for putting that asphalt parking lot down. The only concern, I don't know if there is any concerns from the council as far as snow removal. Again, the intersection there, we want to be able to tie into that as evenly as possible. Again, talking a little bit, we've got 3 quotes. It looks like Inland or Inroads is who we're probably going to go with. But at this point, we've got a budget kinda. We're working through some of the details with our finance council. We've already went through our diocese, Des Moines office, gotten all that kind of approval there. Finance council meets next week. Buildings and grounds, which is what I'm on the buildings and grounds for the parish. We meet the week after that. We hope to have a pretty good idea of what's gonna happen. But I mean, they don't even start their asphalt plant till April. So that gives us a few months here before we get to where we're gonna be ready to do that. Hopefully, we actually been looking at this for a while. But due to some other financial issues, which I'm sure you guys run into occasionally, we haven't been able to cover the cost of doing that work. So
Do you know how many square feet this is roughly?
it is, they actually give it to you and it's on there, it's 3,775 square yards. It's roughly 100 parking spots.
So the
Oh, the stuff on the back, I'm sorry, that's scratch paper.
Oh, okay.
I apologize, ignore the stuff on the back of that document I
Now
have.
I can tree. So.
I'm sorry, that's all scratch paper.
This math way above.
Yeah,
I'm just building a cabinet.
Yeah, building cabinet too.
I apologize.
No, you're fine. We're easily distracted.
Okay.
So yes,
So the question is, so Northwest Washington Avenue running past the church, you're paving the other side, the east side of that, correct?
No, that,
Or you're,
where it says Northwest Washington in front of the church, that land was ceded over to the Catholic Church a few years back. So,
yeah, it's been a while, I know that.
yeah, so all the way up to the sidewalk. is-
which I will let you know, it's been a while ago, Charlie Campbell approached us about getting a easement through there to let that road continue on because there's looking at some development apparently out that way. We actually went to the diocese about that, which was one of the things that started the parking lot issue was if we're gonna do that, should we get paved? This has been over 5 years ago. The diocese said, no, we're not gonna allow a road to go that close across.
That's what I was curious about.
So if you wanna know, that's all been looked
No,
at
that's
previously.
curious.
I can tell you the Diocese of Des Moines, which I would agree with, says, no, that's too
Yeah.
close to the front of the church.
So
I don't know
if
where
there
all that's
is-
going now, but
Yeah, so if there is development up to the north, it's gonna have to run west on Elm. And go up and around the backside there. Okay.
Can't go west on that
I
one.
can't answer that.
That's what I'm, yeah, exactly.
Go west either.
Right, that's what I'm looking at.
Cause they give that dead end street to them too.
Yeah.
Oh,
It has
That
to,
was my
Garfield
next,
has to
that
go
was my
through.
next question is
Garfield has to go through.
interesting long-term planning there. Okay.
Mike, Travis, maybe you can help me with this. That's a large area to surface. Aren't there, don't we have a surfacing ordinance that speaks to if you have, and I'm sure it falls underneath this amount of square footage, but don't we need like DNR permits or something for rain runoff?
You're talking about erosion control is what you're talking about, like like sand and sediment getting into our waterways.
Yeah, I know there's no storm sewers
Right,
up
but there's
there.
still like overland flow after it rains and stuff like that.
Yeah.
An area that's small, I doubt the DNR would even, I don't think you have to file a permit for them to do
Okay,
that.
this,
You have to be over an acre.
Yeah,
okay, all right. I didn't know what the requirement was on that. And then my other question, the city did pass that ordinance, what was it, Brad, 6 years back, where they changed the language on if you're doing a repair of an existing surface area on the west side of town, you could, if it was asphalt, you could maintain it as asphalt. If it was rock, you could keep it as rock. But if you're doing net new, isn't it supposed to be concrete?
Yeah, we'd have to look at how that was worded in that ordinance for sure.
Yeah.
That was one of the things that popped into my head since it's an improvement technically.
Yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily want to say they have to put in concrete, but if it's against the wording of the ordinance, I mean, I think we need to address that somehow. If, with the revision of the ordinance or
Yeah, some type of an exception potentially.
put it in front of the Board of Adjustment or something, but.
I appreciate you giving us a heads up on
Yeah.
this.
Yeah,
Make
no,
sure- So we can make sure we get it done for you, yeah.
that's why we're here, to really bring awareness. Again, we don't have everything solved on our side yet, but we're getting close.
Okay. And you said the yellow line is your property line?
Well, if you type into the assessor's office,
Okay,
So the assessment.
that's what comes up for the property boundary. But
Okay.
the church actually owns some of the ground to the north
north in the
and
black
on
here.
the west side as well.
Okay,
So we own,
Yeah,
the parish, I should say, or Diocese of Des Moines
yeah,
owns, way back when we built that social hall on there.
Yeah.
The Des Moines Diocese emphasized to us to acquire some additional land for potential expansion, future expansion. Right now, I can assure you there's no plans on that. But believe it or not, they actually one time had proposed possibly a school, a Catholic school, or a retirement village for them. But that's been 20 years ago that all that happened, so. But yeah, that's what comes up, but we actually own some more to the north and to the west side of that as well. And just to let you know, as far as runoff, right now it would all go to the north. And we're hoping to have that as level as can be. It drops off a little bit there once you get to.
this kind of flows this way right now. If I
Yeah,
recall
it does.
correctly.
there's actually
This is the
a
pump.
waterway, I guess, kind of, yeah.
Yeah, because I remember my kids were little league, this was kind of a swampy area. Well,
So, I mean, you say there is when you said it has to be done in concrete?
So.
We'll just have to review that and get
Yeah,
back to
okay,
you
we
on
have to
that
review
one.
it, so,
Yeah.
That would be
not
a
gonna
lot of
able to-
concrete,
Yeah.
well, it would increase your cost substantially.
3 times. Yeah, we looked at that. So, is that why, I guess, other than, what do I wait to hear back, or, I noticed I was reading here on getting on future agendas, or, you guys are gonna tell me how we sit as far as with this ordinance, or what happens now?
I would say let's make sure we do our due diligence. Let's look into the paving requirements to see if it does in fact have to be concrete, if it is, if asphalt is okay. The word escaped me for a moment there. What our options are, what your options are, and let's go from there. In the meantime, stay in touch with Katie as well, so she can keep us in the loop. That way we can make sure that you're not doing something that we're not supposed to, we're not doing it, et cetera, et cetera. So we can make sure everything's up to par here. So
Perfect, that's exactly what we wanted, so, other than, do you have some idea how long it will take for this due diligence?
to review the ordinance, I almost have it pulled up here. I'm going to, I'm not gonna get to it right now.
No, no, no.
I want to continue on, but I will look into
Council
this.
meeting or something, would that be?
I would say at least by next council meeting, we would have an update for you, and
Okay.
then we can go from there, and then I'm sure you'd have some more information as well, and we can continue on at that point, so.
Yeah, after we have our finance council and our buildings and grounds, because I kind of show the square there, but that's.
I get it. Yeah, yeah, we can get back to you. That's
Okay.
not a problem.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate you coming in.
Any additional public comments this evening?
Yeah, William Holterman. Yeah, I went from the January meeting, health issues, but no big deal. How did we go from appointing a council member to now we have to have a, election? How did that work that happened? I don't quite understand. We didn't have the money then, now all of a sudden we do. And then who is these council members?
So whether we had or did not have the money was irrelevant at that point. The goal was for council to come to a consensus to appoint a council member to the committee, to the board that we saw fit. Based on Iowa code on law and everything, within 14 days, if a citizen files the paperwork for a petition for a special election, basically, they don't agree with what council came up with. They would like to force a special election. They have the right to do so.
Okay,
That
and who is that person?
That paperwork was processed. That paperwork was put forth through, I believe, was it you, Mr. Nichols, or?
Mhm.
Yeah. So Mr. Nichols is the one who did that at that time, went through, got the signatures required and everything. As far as any candidates that are up for the election itself, I'm not aware of anybody who's filled out paper to this date at this time.
I submitted mine today.
Oh, okay, well, there we go, there's number one. Anybody is eligible, or anybody who's eligible is welcome to submit that paperwork if they would like to toss their name in the hat.
Okay, I just never seen him here, but I hadn't been here a lot till the last few months. I just have my concerns about things that seem to be awful shady, that all of a sudden he wants to be after somebody's already appointed. And just so you know,
We're
who I
not
am,
doing
I do
direct,
live
we're
down.
not doing direct conversation. You can talk to me
Okay, well, I'm
afterwards.
gonna put
Yeah.
up my sign that says white nigger, home of a white nigger in Elkhart, Iowa. You guys can do what you want. I will see you in federal court if you want to try to stop me.
We've never tried to stop you.
No, you haven't, because you can't. Then you have tried.
Stop it. Can we
You called
move
the
on?
police.
Mr.
on me.
Halterman.
No, I did not. I came to
Mr.
your house and
Halterman.
spoke to you, remember?
Okay,
I did not
I'm
stop.
done. I'm done. Thank
We're gonna
you.
regain order here, thank you.
My sign will be up by the middle.
Thank you, Mr. Halterman.
You guys have a good day.
Thank you, Mr. Halterman.
You're welcome,
Are there any
sir.
additional public comments this evening? Okay, let's get back on track then. On to number 6, the consent agenda. Just again, as a reminder, we did strike F, G, H, and I from the meeting at this time, based off of, or due to the fact that those reports were not available due to technical issues, I'll say it like that. So with that being said, the consent agenda, is there anything we'd like to pull out, discuss, talk about? We want to
Yes.
approve it?
Yeah, I got a couple of
I heard a
things.
yes over here. Mr. Hess?
On letter B for the meeting minutes for the January 20th on that. It lists the starting time at 6:30 and the adjournment time at 6:08. And I believe that was a 6 o'clock meeting on the 20th. It was one of the special meetings. And then also on number 4 on that agenda, it says to approve the January 20th, 2025 agenda. I believe that should be a 2026 agenda. So those are highlighted for you.
Mine says 26. That's weird.
Yeah, I see
Mine says
26
26
as well.
Fun.
Okay,
Looking at the 20th or the 26th?
there are 2 meetings on the 26th.
Gotcha.
Yes,
I
I
see the
see
other
what
one
you're
then.
saying here. Yeah, That's,
I'll look at
that's
the
a-
other one then. Yep, it's a typo. Get
yep,
changed.
nope, we can get that
Okay,
corrected.
but I, not a big deal, but
Mhm.
just so
No,
it's
no,
accurate.
no, actually, absolutely.
Thank you.
And then, letter E, January and February claims submitted. I noticed, like there were a lot of payroll entries for smaller dollar amounts that were broken out. And then there were 4 separate entries for Snyder Associates that were $625 each. And I was just curious, why wasn't that just one for $2,500? I'm just curious why they're broken out in
So
such a finite
payroll-
way.
Yeah, our salaries are split up in different funds. So
Okay.
that's why the payroll, there's a bunch of different entries, but the Snyder invoices was also split up between, I think it was 4 different funds as well.
Okay, so it's based on the funding source.
Yeah, I tried to put the detail, Marissa pulls a detailed claims report and then she pulls the condensed. And so, this was just the detail that showed the breakdown of how each invoice was paid.
Okay. All right, and then is there, somewhere where there's a legend that the code numbers in the left-hand column for what fund? I don't know, I don't know what fund there is.
This is the charge account
Okay,
next to it.
so is there a key somewhere that says what that charge account aligns to?
I can ask her if it generates like that. I'm not sure. I mean, yeah, the 001 is general and then,
Oh,
yeah.
I'm just not that familiar with.
No,
the
yeah,
code
sure.
numbers
We can check.
yet. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
I was gonna pull out 6E just because there are invoices of Senate associates, and since I work for Senate associates, I don't like conflict of interest. So I'd try to abstain from that vote on that.
Anything else? Okay, with all that said, council,
I make a motion to accept the consent agenda with 6D corrected for dates and times, and for the polling of 6E as a separate vote. Yep.
I'll second that.
Warranty,
Aye.
excuse me. Edler.
Aye.
The orders got me messed up. 4 days.
Aye.
Schaefer,
Aye.
yes.
Aye.
Okay, very good. So then we wanted to do E as a separate vote, then I'm correct? Okay. So then, approval of 6E on the consent agenda though, then.
I make a motion that we approve agenda item 6E outside the consent agenda as its own separate item. Approval of January and February claims submitted. Is there a better way to put that forward?
That's fine.
Okay.
I second that.
Warranty,
Abstain.
Edler.
Aye.
Fortis.
Aye.
Schaefer.
Aye.
Yes. Aye. Very good. All right, on to number 7 then, business items. Excuse me. Resolution 2026-17, a resolution to appoint a new member to the Parks and Rec Board. Goes here. I believe we have a couple of the potential candidates here this evening. Did we?
Yeah.
See, and I'm gonna pull it up here. Council, have you had time to, I hope so, had time to review all the applications and everything? Were there any questions? Is Beeler here? I guess. No, didn't believe so.
No.
Do you have anything that you wanted to add in addition to what you had already submitted, or since you're here, I always give an opportunity.
No, like it says, I've been here, lived here for almost 19 years now. I've watched the town come up around me. Watched some of the kids grow up and graduate now, and watched all those kids at the park, and just kind of, and now my kids are at the park, and with my background in policy council and just being an outdoors person when I can be, I think I would be a good fit.
Was there, council, did you have any questions for her since she's here?
I did not. But I know she does a lot in the community, a lot of activities such as Girl Scouts and 4-H and things like that. Just fantastic.
Yeah, very good. Was there a official recommendation from Parks for any candidates?
Yes, Parks did meet and have a discussion. Stephanie, did you want to speak on behalf of Parks since you're here? Did you?
Sure.
Okay, either her or you. No, I mean, you're the appointed member.
I'm the liaison, but she's here. So.
She's looking at
Either
this. I
or.
feel like that's for giving me the baton, but yeah. Parks had a very lengthy and thorough discussion on all 3 applicants. We are excited to see 3 more applicants come in after, getting 4 or 5 a couple months ago. It was awesome to see that kind of participation. All 3 applicants are very well qualified for the position, but at the end of the day, the board agreed to recommend Ms. Cheyenne Sipes to Parks, to the council.
And the conversation at that meeting focused a lot around trying to identify if there were any gaps in the existing board not overwhelming it with anybody of any particular backgrounds or things like that. And then looking forward at some of the things that they've been mapping out as their future plans, who might best be plugged into that. So they did put there was a lot of good discussion about just future thinking and planning about what direction they're headed and who would best help them get there.
Excellent. Okay, very good. With that being said, is there a motion for a nomination or a nomination and a motion?
Is Cheyenne here?
No, I don't believe so. No.
I motion to appoint Cheyenne Sykes to Parks and Rec Board.
I second.
Warranty?
Aye.
Adler?
Aye.
Portis?
Aye.
Jim?
Aye.
Yes.
Aye.
Very good. Thank you for,
Thank you
yes,
for coming.
absolutely.
Be sure to attend the meetings when you can.
Yeah.
There's openings all the time.
Mhm.
And if you have interest, feel free to come and
She
contribute.
was
and help out.
commenting on our community service for the neighborhood, the city. Izzy's got plans. She's got plans, so she and I will be here.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Perfect.
But yeah, you can
Very
go
soon.
to any meeting. You don't have to be on the board. You can just go and sit in if you'd like.
Yeah, absolutely. Very good. On to letter 7B then, resolution 2026-18, resolution adopting an employee separation and property return policy.
So the city council requested that I work with our city attorney to develop a policy to protect the employee and the city upon separation when an employee leaves. So this would establish a formal procedure for checking out items, checking out access, and it would require signatures as well. And so the city attorney did review the policy in its entirety, and I made the changes that she suggested, and then this is the final version.
Council, are there any comments on it or questions or?
It seemed really thorough. I appreciated the multiple signatures. Thought that was great. It really gives us appropriate documentation if down the road we were to need it. And so I didn't see anything overtly concerning when I was reviewing it.
I have a couple questions for you, Katie, on this. Do we currently have in place a process where, say, I'm issued a set of office keys, a tablet, and a radio? Is there a form that I fill out or that we will sign saying Tony has these things?
Like a checkout,
Yeah,
we don't have something in place. We keep an internal document at City Hall of who has keys. But as far as like radios for the fire department or anything, we don't have record of that.
okay. Well, unfortunately, I've had past lives where I've had to do separations with employees. Some go easier than others. And, you don't want to get into, I was never issued that. Yes, you were, but we don't have anything documented to prove it. So I'm just wondering if on the front end, we need to have a supporting document that covers what was issued to who and when, and when it gets checked back in or not.
Yeah, that would be, I can type that up, a simple little document checkout.
Yeah, I just think it gives a little bit more substance to
Yeah.
this, because I didn't love it, but I've heard of problems in the past where you weren't able to get like passwords and
Sure.
stuff for certain things.
Sure.
Just if we had that documentation up front, it just makes it a little bit easier. And then, if you're not available, if you're on vacation or out of town, it says it has to be within the presence of the city administrator, at least one witness. Do we need to list an alternate if you're not available?
It says /HR, and that was one of my questions to her as well, but this is what they recommended making for the verbiage. So,
Could HR be considered to be Johnny or
yeah.
Angie, since he's mayor and she's pro temp?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'd like to see it formalized that either city administrator, and if city administrator is unavailable, mayor or mayor pro tem as availability allows.
Council, any additional comments? Or?
But otherwise, I like the thoroughness of it.
Well, then it's up to you guys. Would you like to approve as is, or would you like to table it and we get some things amended and then continue on? It's up to you guys.
Sounds like we need to table it and add a couple things, quick and easy things, or do we want to approve it assuming those changes will be made? The
With the
listing,
exception-
This document, the only real change is the HR.
the
part.
HR part,
So
yeah.
I think we could approve it.
Yeah, I
Yeah, the
think so,
checkout would be-
With an
That's a whole
exception
different
to have it
thing.
added.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
So, okay, so approval contingent on
Yeah.
adding that, okay.
So Katie, does that make sense?
Yeah, so you want what Tony suggested for verbiage versus what the attorney wrote, typically by city administrator / HR.
Yeah, instead of HR, if mayor pro tem is
Okay.
available instead of HR.
Yeah, since we don't have someone whose title is HR
Yeah.
specifically.
Nor
The
anyone's
redundancy
initials
would be
for
that the city administrator is basically.
My,
Yeah, you're
my
HR.
suggestion would be to go leave the HR in if in what at some point in the future that we do have an HR, an actual HR, that verbiage is already in there in addition to adding mayor pro tem.
Okay,
That would be my suggestion.
okay.
I would not strike, I would just add. Contingent on those changes, can I get a motion and a second?
Motion to approve resolution 2026-18, adopting the employee separation and property return policy, presuming that the expected changes are made to add pro tem to the list of acceptable signatures.
And mayor.
And mayor, I'm
Yes.
sorry.
Nice try.
I'm second that.
You did, okay, thank you. Warnke,
Aye.
Edler,
Aye.
Fordice,
Aye.
Schaefer.
Aye.
Yes.
Aye.
Good. Letter C, award proposal for grant administration support for Stormwater Phase 2/3 project funding.
So we issued a request for proposal for grant assistance and administration support for this project. We received one response and I emailed that all to you last week from Simmering and Corey, so the deadline was today at 4:00. I don't know if you've had a chance to review their proposal that they submitted. But there's kind of two aspects to it, the grant writing aspect to it, and then the grant administration to keep us in compliance with all the federal rules. And the grant fund, the price of the administration would be fully funded if we were awarded the grant money. Did that make sense? Like, it would be included in that amount.
Any speculation on why we only had one
No.
response by chance?
There's not very many firms in Iowa that do these services, or maybe knows others, but I mean, I received interest from another engineering firm, but the more they looked into it, I don't think it was a good fit for them, but
Okay.
I'm really only aware of this firm and I've heard of one other, but I haven't seen a whole lot of work done by the other firm, so.
Okay, I do have a few questions on this, so on the first part of the proposal, they talked about for the community development block grant eligibility, 51% of those benefiting must be low and moderate income. And this is the survey that the RFP refers to. So who are we saying is the beneficiary of this project? Is it all residents of the city of Elkhart? Is it a specific geographical area within the city of Elkhart? Because I think that's going to be key to us achieving that 51% of low and moderate income households. Because just, using the data set from Snyder, with the work they did for the research deck, on page 5 of that, they have Elkhart's per capita income at 37.5, and a poverty rate of 9.8%. And if that's spread out across the entirety of the community, I don't see us getting to the 51% threshold to be able to get the grant. And, so, are we saying that this is only benefits, from Grant West? Is it, or is it Trent West? You know, how far north does it go? Because if the Snyder number is correct, I just don't see us getting to that 51%. And the 22%, you know, I'm cool with because it comes out of the grant if we get the grant. And that's not an expense unless we get it. But the $1,500, I'm not too worried about, but if we have to do the survey, and what was it costing that $4,000 to $6,000?
So there's an option for the city to do the survey,
Yeah,
and then there's an option for us to pay them to do this, the survey.
so,
The benefited area is west of Grant though, so that would help.
so then, would you include the east side of Grant though?
That's a great question.
Because that's, I mean,
Yep.
that's on the train,
Right.
so,
We have to figure that out, but
okay.
it's right on the border, like you said.
Yeah, but, and then there's housing that's going in north of that. I don't know where that sewer runoff goes. I mean, does this tie in? And is there a contingent benefit to that new housing that's going in? So,
Based on how we had it in the report, you know, it would just be the old part of town and nothing new. So
okay,
not that that couldn't change, but that's how it would go today.
okay. So, and I'm not saying I know what everyone makes on the west side of town, but I can stand on my front porch and look at the 10 houses around me that I can see in my eyesight, and there might be one who might meet this low and moderate income definition. And I was looking at the Iowa Economic Development and Finance Authority site, using their 2016 to 2020 data, which is what they say has to be used for the application. And at that time, they had Elkhart at 42.4% LMI. And I don't know, I can't remember exactly where development was in 2020. So, but obviously the more development that's counted in east of Grant is going to lower that LMI number, I believe, is my assumption. And I could be wrong again. I don't know what everybody makes, but you know, did I not read that right? We have to hit that 51% to be eligible to be even considered for the block. So,
Which I think we would figure that out. I mean, as we're getting into the data, if we qualify or not, pretty quickly. And
but I mean, if, like I said, just using that Snyder number and then the numbers that are available on the economic development side, I just don't see us getting to that 51%. And I don't want to spend $8,500 for a fail. So, but I want the $500,000. So, and quite frankly, doing an economic survey like that, I don't know how forthcoming people would be as we show up at their doors, you know, as their neighbors asking, you know, what their economic status is. And, you know, and I think it's limited. I think it's a tough road to hoe either way. You know, the strangers asking those questions too. Online surveys. I mean, I know you've done a couple of them recently, Katie. I don't know what's the hit rate on those surveys.
we're gonna send images though.
Well, yeah. So, but I mean, the sampling on this is going to be critical. And getting the right sample size, you know, limiting it to the west side of town, possibly the east side of Grant, I think is a good start to it. But you know, but I don't want to look like we're playing games trying to stage a sample that's beneficial, because that'll come back to bite us later on too.
We wouldn't want to be accused of doing anything shady, so.
Yeah.
What I would say is, you know, these guys do this for a living, so they know how to, not game the system by any means, but they know how to be able to find the people to talk to and get them to respond. You know, that's their job. So it takes it out of you guys' hands, takes it out of our hands. Because I agree with you. I wouldn't want to do it either. But when we work with COGS, usually they're pretty successful at getting these done. And I don't think they would attempt it if they didn't think they were able to meet that threshold. So
I
think
there's
some benefit in having that data for future usages as well, too. So it would be an investment, not just for this project, but for future usages.
Well, like I said, I'm no math whiz, but just looking at those numbers real quick and what I counted out, I don't get us to 51% is my concern.
Council, any additional comments or questions, or concerns?
Travis, did you work on that number that was on that Snyder deck at all?
No, I didn't.
Okay, because I was wondering what their methodology was.
Yeah, I don't know, but
Okay.
I'll echo D&K though, saying that, you know, these guys do these grant writing for a living. They know the ins and outs of it. They know how to write the grant, how to not manipulate the numbers, but no, they know what data to use, right?
Yeah.
And I
Like I said, I'm
I have
familiar with
confidence that if they proposed on the RFP, they have the ability to do it, and they probably have pretty high confidence level of getting that grant. I think your concerns are valid. You know, just speaking of someone who puts in for RFPs for professional services, if I don't think I can get the job, I'm not going to apply for it.
Okay, and then also looking on the economic development side, I came across something called the state revolving loan fund. Would we need to look into something like that for the plan and design phase of this? Because if we did do the survey and say it's the full 6,000, that's $7,500. Your budget for next year didn't have $7,500 at the bottom line for a plus amount in there. Is that, would we need to look into something like that? Because it could be a 0% loan for 3 years. If that information I was looking at on the site is current. So,
That would be a soft, correct me if I'm wrong, but that would be like a soft cost included in the SRF, right?
So it's dependent on if the project is eligible for SRF funding, which I believe it is.
Were you looking at storm sewer funding? Okay, I'd have to look into that. I know when we talked earlier with some people, you know, we'd have to have a certain amount of green infrastructure to have it eligible for SRF.
okay, yeah,
So,
I just saw it was out there and I saw the 0%, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is a pretty typical program that people use, and you actually don't have to go through the SRF for the actual funding. Whatever loan that you take out basically pays back the thing in design loan. So I'd say it is very common, people do it a lot. But again, you have to, I would make sure that you're SRF eligible for the project.
Okay.
Beforehand.
Because like I said, I just don't know if we take assuming it's gonna be the full 6,000 for the survey. And hopefully it's less than that, but I'm just concerned about us trying to cover $7,500 expenditure up front on this. At least if we could, even if we didn't get the loan, we'd have 3 years. Or if we didn't get the grant, if we got the loan, we would have 3 years to get that $7,500 instead of getting it one fell swoop. So, I don't, maybe I'm being overly cautious, but, you know, in reading through all the material, that's what I came up with. So, I don't know, I mean, others,
Very good. Council's your decision. I understand where Mr. Hess is coming from. I believe his concerns are valid. We've heard from Mr. Warnke, who's in this profession and works with these things as well, so it's up to you guys.
I would agree that if they thought they couldn't get that grant in some way, that they would not try to get that grant. So I think we're still on the right road to this RFP. But
Katie, what are your recommendations dealing with Simmering and Corey in the past and
Oh, they've been great to work with in the past.
in terms
Oh,
of
I-
in terms of backing up or talking about what Travis said or what Jordan has said, or do you feel pretty comfortable moving forward with that? And
Absolutely, yeah. You know, I worked with them with qualification processes and they're very timely, very knowledgeable. So yeah, I have full confidence in their team.
in terms of qualifying the portions that are SRF eligible, is that something that you can stay on top of and keep us posted on? Jordan, are you able to help with that?
Yeah.
Okay. If any concerns pop up, let us know. Cause I believe phase one, I'd have to go back and look because it's been a few years, but I believe the design for that was paid through SRF.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly.
and that was a different situation because the lagoons,
There's a lot of green space.
You know, we got that funded through a grant through the
But seeing as that the end result is that the water ends up in those same lagoons, I'm thinking maybe there's some tie in there as well, potentially.
And we talked to somebody from SRF about that, and she said if you were just gonna do the trunk sewer itself, not gonna work. But if we get, more green infrastructure with some of the intake improvements we're doing, then maybe we have a shot.
Because some of the pooling sites where one of them was a city park, correct? I
Yeah.
think that was part of it as
We
well.
might have to
that
make
would
some
help us
bio
with the S-
swales or
yes,
something along those
Exactly.
lines, so.
I think that was all rolled into the SRF stuff, but it feels like ancient history trying to remember that without looking it up. So, if you're comfortable moving forward, Katie, I'm comfortable moving forward. Just due diligence, keep an eye on it like you
Yeah.
always do. Keep us posted,
Okay.
especially on that survey stuff that Tony
Yes.
mentioned. Yeah.
Okay, somebody moved in second, I think.
So motion to award the proposal for the grant administration in support of stormwater phases 2 and 3 to Simmering and Corey.
A second.
Sorry. Do you need to specify, because the grant has an either or option in there, right, for phase one? So do we need to specify, do we want them to do the survey or do we want to do the survey ourselves? I mean, doesn't that need to be part of the motion?
Yeah, because they do give us two options for the survey.
Yeah.
So whether you want to, the city to facilitate it by ourselves or pay them to do it.
Yeah, I'd say given the scope of what you were talking about and the hesitancy of, or the expertise that they carry with those data sets, I would vote that they do the work. What's that?
Or move. You're making a motion. So you're moving to accept their bid with.
Yeah,
With the provision that
well,
they
no, I
do
was
the survey.
talking it out. I
Okay.
wasn't making a motion
Okay.
yet. I was just saying my personal opinion would be that we,
Let them finish.
no, it's okay. I would say that we let them do what they're paid to do and what their expertise lies in. That's just my opinion on the survey part of it.
I agree.
So then, yeah, we'll just have to rewrite this because there's only one item then. So the awarding the proposal for the grant administration and support, including the survey for phase 1 and 2, or sorry, 2 and 3 to Simmering and Corey.
A second time.
Markey?
Aye.
Hitler?
Aye.
Fordice?
Aye.
Schaefer?
Aye.
Yes.
Aye. Thanks for hearing me out of my concerns.
Always,
So that-
yeah, that's why we're here. Talking through.
Letter D, second reading of ordinance 2025-14, amending the code of ordinances of the city of Elkhart, Iowa by amending provisions pertaining to subdivision regulations.
You guys completed the first reading of this ordinance last month. After the public hearing was held. So this is why it is on the agenda for the second reading.
I know there were some concerns brought up at that time. Forgive me for not taking them out immediately. Were there any changes made, or is this the same as it was last month?
So after a reading takes place, you can't make changes
That's
to
correct, that's correct.
an ordinance draft. So it is the existing.
It is existing, okay.
I motion to approve the second reading of ordinance number 2025-14, amending the code of ordinances of the city of Elkhart, Iowa by amending provisions pertaining to subdivision regulation.
I'll second.
Warranty?
Aye.
Yes, Mr. Hess,
We're gonna have discussion.
we can.
Okay, I mean.
You're gonna have to speak up, so.
Okay, all right.
Go ahead.
I'm just trying to maintain with as close to Robert's rules as I can.
Sure.
So, okay. Again, I think we need something for traffic studies, traffic impact studies. I was on that side of the table when I voiced this concerns last time, but I just don't see what we have written is enforceable. So, and then I noticed these developer required traffic analysis, quick reference, was included. So is this gonna be part of the ordinance?
No, that's just for information.
Okay, because again, I think the definition sections needs to say what a peak hour is. And you can't just say the busiest hour. Most of the literature I read on it says the busiest continuous 60 minutes. So it's not necessarily an 8 to 9 or 7 to 8 type thing. You know, and again, where does a developer get their baseline? So I'm putting in this new subdivision, I'm saying it's not gonna increase at 100, you know, over an hour. But, you know, there's no baseline for them to measure from, so. I
Tony,
still
there
have
is a
those
baseline out
concerns.
there. I mean, the DOT and the county publish traffic counts on roads. And there's maps, it's all public information. You'll find baselines. They do it every couple of years. So there is public information for a baseline to figure out what existing traffic flow is on roads.
Okay. Is that
and
on residential areas or just off of highways?
I mean, I guess it kind of depends on the city for residential roads, but
For around here,
I guess what road do you want? You want like 126?
so.
Or is that like a?
Well, you know, let's say north of the daycare, that gets developed, all of a sudden, the developer comes in and they want to put in 85 houses up there. So, I mean.
Yeah, I mean, any major arterial road usually has a traffic volume count with it.
Okay.
So in that case, it'd be green.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It was north of the-
yes. I guess your question about how is it enforceable, I mean, so what's your concern? How do you feel like it's not enforceable?
Well, if I'm a developer and I read the ordinance, I say, okay, this doesn't apply to me.
How doesn't it apply to you though? I guess I'm confused because I did my due diligence after the last meeting. You voiced some concerns. I went and I talked to some coworkers who are development engineers. They work for developers and they deal with traffic impact studies and the needs for them. And I asked them to look at the code, to read it, to see what their thoughts were. And they said it's pretty straightforward. It's pretty clear on the requirements when you need a traffic impact study, you know, with that threshold of 100 new trips in the peak hour. So I'm struggling to figure out.
Okay, so where it says units here, does that mean trips or does that mean structures? So like you've got housing, single family, greater than 100 units.
That's structures.
Okay,
Yeah, I mean, 100 units, apartments, 180 units.
but that doesn't equate to trips necessarily.
Right, so these are examples. So like a housing single family, when there's 100 homes, that generally produces 100 or more trips in the peak hour.
Okay.
This is a quick reference guide. The city of Des Moines has this published on their website for traffic impact studies and analysis. So it's not just like made up document. I mean, it's the city uses it and it works really well.
I think at the time of the first reading, we discussed getting something in place and then potentially going back and tightening up the language if we needed to, or if it was ever challenged, or if we found that it wasn't enforceable.
Yeah.
At that time, because I know you spoke with who you spoke with. I spoke to two different city managers as well, and it's extremely standard, and they've never had issues with it. One of them said in 20 plus years of doing development, they've never had anybody challenge it. It was very similarly worded.
I will add to that too. Like, so 99% of the residents of Elkhart will never have to see this ordinance. They'll never use it, right? And developers who it applies to, they hire an engineer to do their development, to do the engineering behind it. So these terms, like the new trips in the peak hour, that's standard language for those engineers, right? So,
like Jordan, are you familiar? Have you guys had any developers challenge this in the past in the projects you've worked with? Or?
No. And they understand they want to develop, like they're not going to challenge you. So very often.
But not never.
I think to Brad's point, we had agreed last month that we wanted to go ahead and get something in place, and that doesn't mean that the wording's in concrete forever. And if we dig into this and it makes sense to amend down the road, we do that. But I don't see any reason to not continue moving this through, so we have something in place.
Okay.
Because we know at least what we have to put in place is not junk. We just don't know if it could be better.
I just want to make sure Mike's toolbox is as full as it can be when they're reviewing
Let's set 'em up.
this. So,
Right.
okay.
Do we have to do that again?
We had the motion, we had the second. I had begun the roll call, but I will restart it. Warnke?
Aye.
Edler?
Aye.
Fordice?
Aye.
Aye.
Almost. Letter E, second reading of ordinance 2025-15, amending the code of ordinances of the city of Elkhart, Iowa by amending provisions pertaining to the site plan information required.
So this is the second reading, as it applies to the site plan, just requiring the traffic impact studies in that chapter as well.
Questions, comments, discussion?
I don't remember correctly, we have any discussion on this last time.
It's just in a different part, so no,
No.
it was the same comment.
Okay.
Very good.
Yeah.
Motion to approve the second reading of ordinance 2025-15.
Second.
Warranty?
Aye.
Edler?
Aye.
Fordice?
Aye.
Schaefer?
Aye.
Hess?
Aye.
Okay. Letter F, ordinance 2026-1, amending the code of ordinances of the city of Elkhart, Iowa by amending provisions in chapter 107 pertaining to recycling rates.
So Metro Waste informed us of their rate increase for residential recycling effective July 1 of this year. And in the past, city council has asked to treat it as a pass-through fee to our residents to keep it the same rate. So that is how I wrote this ordinance up. I believe it's an increase of 3.1%. So currently the charge is $4.64 per month, and it's increasing to $4.78 on July 1.
And this is a pass through, like it's always been in the past, none of that has changed.
Yeah.
Okay.
Questions, comments, discussion?
Move to approve ordinance number 2026-1, amending the code of ordinances of the city of Elkhart, Iowa by amending provisions in chapter 107 pertaining to recycling rate fees.
I second that.
Warranty?
Aye.
Edler?
Aye.
Fordice?
Aye.
Schaefer?
Aye.
Hess?
Aye.
Very good. Letter F, discussion and possible action regarding waiver of utility late fees. When I had seen this pop up on the agenda, I said this again, and then I was provided with some more insight and information, so.
Yes, so Marissa provided some good detail. We had 3 customers come forward and she kind of explained their circumstances. All 3 customers are aware that you guys are discussing this. Doesn't mean that they will be approved or waived. However, it sounds like 2 of the customers, they weren't aware of the change for several months and their bill just wasn't pulling through. And so finally, when they noticed, they were assessed late fees. And then the 3rd customer, her situation's a little different. It's regarding changing her bank account number.
I understand that, they may not have seen it, but at what point do we cut it off and say, you had enough time to observe the change and make that change? So, I mean, if we approve it this time, that's fine. If we do that, we need to we're done. This is it. We're not gonna keep continuing.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would think 3 months in, any hiccups as far as like account numbers and not noticing that it had changed or didn't check my mailbox or whatever, I think those are kind of gone and passed by this time, so, which is why I immediately questioned it when I saw it come across, so. It's ultimately up to you guys. I don't see an issue, but I also agree with you as far as where's the line.
Yeah.
So I would recommend that this is the line.
Yeah.
But that's also your decision, so.
Yeah, I would say, go ahead for these 3 customers, but make it very clear moving forward that you've had 3 months, that's enough time to make those changes and that we're not doing that moving forward.
Have you ran reporting, is there anyone who has never had a late bill for 5 months and had a late bill in the last couple of months that hasn't already come out of this wash?
I think some of these, I think 1 or 2 of these customers, was in a situation like that where they didn't pay late repeatedly, and this was like an
Abnormal behavior.
yes.
Okay, so, I mean, because when I was in credit card collections, I mean, we actually gave people once every 12 months, we would waive a late fee. So I'm not saying you do something like that, but if our reporting shows, some that these people have been on-time payers for a long time, and they can all be contributing back to the software change, I'm fine with it. The woman who changed her banking account, I'm a little iffy on that one, but if they've been a good payer, it's $21. I'm okay waiving it. If it's
Well, did I read that right, that it's like, pardon my ignorance on this a little bit, but it pre-drafted like on the 12th, and she changed her account information on like the 14th, but then it didn't actually pull until like the 17th?
Yeah, so they're
Something like that,
initiated a week prior to allow for any issues like that may happen.
Okay.
So they're consistently initiated on the 12th, and then they don't pull until the 19th.
And is it out there for people to know that changes made after the 12th may negatively impact you in such a way that you get a late fee?
I think we published on the software change notice, like that whole sheet. I think it was on there,
Okay.
but it wouldn't hurt for us to make that notice again.
Yeah, I think that, again, like, as someone who does auto draft all the time, like, once I've set it up, I 0% pay attention to it from there.
Yeah.
Now, I would notice if it wasn't pulling, but I might not myself, because I also, in however many years, have never changed my bank account. So if I found myself in a situation now where I suddenly wanted to jump banks, I am absolutely one of those people that would not necessarily know that when I think my bill pulls on the 17th, that it actually pulls on the 12th, and so the 14th is too late. So just want to make sure that people, we don't have to like force feed it to them as far as information, but I want to make sure they know where to find that, so that.
Yeah, we can definitely post something just to let them know that, hey, the cutoff is this day of each month.
Because I think based on what I read, it sounds like, she was doing everything in good faith. She just didn't know those dates.
Yeah.
And that's, I want to charge her $20 for that. That's.
So do we want to accept these three this time and then put a cutoff date of March 1st? That we're not going to accept anymore after March 1st? Do we want to put the cutoff date as tonight's meeting and moving forward we're not going to? Or how do you guys want to do it?
I would do tonight's meeting and not doing any more moving forward.
If you do it March 1st, you're gonna be another billing cycle.
Yeah, you're gonna
Yeah, that would leave a little bit of room though for what you had mentioned where it was possible, but yeah, I'd be in favor of covering these three, and then Katie, if people will reach back out in the future, just let them know that we passed a 3-month window. And
Okay,
yeah. You guys good with that?
Yeah,
Yep,
that's, I think it's a great plan.
And if they so choose, they can review the discussion we had tonight on our city's YouTube channel, saying shameless plug.
Sure, like
It's the city's YouTube channel, shameless plug.
That's what it's called?
You keep trying to get the
City's
information out.
YouTube channel.
The shameless
They
plug.
can, they can watch the video back.
Oh.
It's like a subtext.
There you go.
I was like, that's what you call this?
City's YouTube channel.
Listen, never mind. Moving on. Council, take it away.
We're kind of not in order now, so we have to start over again.
Did I get a motion?
Oh, motion. Okay, I motion to, approve to waive the late fees for the 3 customers discussed. And then cut off date of tonight's meeting, that we would no longer approve late fees after tonight.
Sorry.
Warren.
Aye.
Adler.
Aye.
Fordice. Schaefer.
Aye.
Yes. Aye.
Sorry, Deb, that was a little bit of a mess for you.
Alrighty. On to number 8 then, reports of elected officials, city staff, and standing committees. We'll start to the left, on my left, and work our way down. Mr. Warnke, do you have anything for us this month?
I was not in attendance at the last PMZ meeting because it fell on the same night as our special council meeting, so I'll defer to Mike on that. what happened at that meeting.
I will defer when I come and circle back around and talk to Mike about that.
Sounds great.
I did not make the Metro Waste Authority meeting last month. I had another family obligation I had to attend. So I don't have an update from that meeting, and their meeting for this month isn't till tomorrow night, so I'll have an update for you next month on that. Cemetery Board is meeting on Thursday night this month. They only meet every 3 months, so I'll have an update for you next month on that as well.
And that's this coming Thursday?
This Thursday.
Okay.
As long as we have a quorum, right?
I think.
Do they have a quorum thing?
I think we will have a quorum.
We will, okay.
The president and vice president just won't be there.
Okay.
Mr. Portis?
Yeah, just quick updates, Public Works, you guys have seen the water treatment, emails, and then the Public Works report. I didn't hear anything or have anything to add to that outside of normal conversations with Ron and Rick. The gas station update, I spoke with the developer this week. They're still on track to break ground sometime in April, and Seneca should have the signed contract and have the construction schedule over to us as soon as the USDA gets back to them, which has been the holdup for 5 months. So they're expecting an answer soon, and then the schedules will be sent out ASAP. Had a couple of different conversations this week with, one of them was with the developer that had came to us about the possible industrial park expansion, the 80 acres north. At the time, he was working with the landowner on some exchanges potentially in acquiring that land. Those conversations continue. It's his desire to have something ready to roll by next spring. So in the next few months, he'll be working closely with Katie and the city and P&Z to start presenting some plans, assuming they can get those land exchanges satisfactory. He said, in a perfect world, things would have been done quicker. He's already had enough requests that he thinks he would have had all 80 acres filled already.
Wow.
I let him know that we were discussing traffic impact study requirements, and we would need to speak about the intersection, right out here, 126 and
38.
Yep. And that would be a further conversation. And then another developer called about a separate 38 acre parcel about the feasibility of developing that. I spoke with Jordan about that yesterday, and then I looped Katie in today, and she's going to be working with him a little bit on that to just explore feasibility and what connecting services out there could potentially look like.
What location is that? Same area?
Just directly south of the existing, the intersection, so the southeast corner.
Okay.
But obviously there's some wetland there and some questions around how that could be developed, but they've got to figure that out.
Wetlands is like 2-year process, just.
Oh, yeah, they're well aware, but they're still interested, and I'll leave that up to them and the landowner to discuss that. But, lots of discussion if it ever comes to fruition. And then, as we obviously mentioned earlier in the evening, there's a special election. We talked about it at the last meeting. We are required to, if a petition is filed, just for public information, if a petition is filed, the city is obligated to accept the petition, and the county, the county sets up the election. So as a city council, we don't have the power to reject it, even if it was against what we had chosen originally as far as listing or appointing someone. Didn't get a chance to say that earlier.
Thank you for bringing that up now when things are a little more relaxed.
Right, I just wanted to mention that we have to do it. I know there was 30-ish signatures on the paperwork that I had seen when I had requested it, and that seems like a pretty substantial number, and if that's what people want, that's what they want. So, and we're here to enact the will of the people who elected us, so. I think that was really it. Honestly, there's some other development conversations, but they're pretty ongoing. So nothing too immediate.
I would request, I know you're Public Works now, you've built a lot of these relationships over the years and things like that. I would recommend looping Travis and getting them together with him as well. That way you guys, with you being P&Z and all that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
So,
great idea.
Brett,
every now and
quick
again.
question for you. Inside, as you go into the water treatment plant, the initial doorway, there's where the holding tanks are with the chemicals in that. And again, they're not placarded yet or anything like that. But to your immediate left, there's a door that goes into where the big tanks are in there. Just a step or two inside that door on the floor is I think Ron said it connects to the float. That sets some sort of alarm off for, I'm not sure what those reasons are, but there's a trip obstruction there. They've got like red tape wrapped around it. That can't be OSHA approved. And you know what I'm talking about inside there?
I'd have to ask Ron, what did,
Okay.
when you were with them, what did they say about it or what?
They just, you know, like, yeah, it shouldn't be like that, but that's what it is.
So
And
are you
that's,
familiar with said trip hazard?
No, but I
Design
mean,
standpoint,
since the
or-
project's not closed out yet, if it's something we want to put on a punch list.
I was gonna say, that was gonna be my main question.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you could get inside there, you'll immediately see what I'm
Yeah.
talking about.
It might be good to, so we got that update from Forrest today, that email about the project. Maybe reply to that and let him know that you had that concern and.
Yeah, we're
Thank you.
meeting on Thursday, so I
Yeah.
can bring it
Yeah.
up. I know what you're talking about.
Okay, okay, yeah, but I
Yeah,
mean,
before it's closed out, why not? Same with the markings that you had mentioned and Katie, the chemical placards that potentially need to be on the front door and what the legal requirements are. If you're meeting this week, we might as well bring it all up along with the Knox box as well.
Correct, yes.
Just put it all on the list.
but if something happens in there fast, and someone's gotta move, or
Yep.
the fire department has to go in when it's dark,
Yeah.
someone's gonna trip over that.
Absolutely.
It's-
No, that's fine.
And then I had a question for you on snack attack.
Mhm.
So what's the USDA involvement that's holding it up?
So the Elkhart is 0.8 miles within the USDA's zone of where they're willing to offer loans for different projects. So
USDA is the funding, right? That's the funding.
partial
source.
funding, so it's not the bank, but the bank goes, the USDA they have a map, and if you're within a certain map, you can pitch a project to them and ask them to fund part of it at a lower interest rate. I don't know all of the details, I just know that what the developer told me is that he was waiting on the USDA to get back to him, and I would say they'll have an answer this month on that. And it's partial funding for the project at a lower interest rate than what the bank would be offering. It's like a subsidy of some type, but it's between them and the USDA.
Okay, and then Katie, to jump ahead, you had it in your notes that we won't require a reapproval of the site plan because the building permit will be extended by our building official. But what about the ordinance that was passed for the development, the agreement with the developer? Because that had an end date of December, I believe.
Ordinance?
Yeah, or resolution, I'm sorry, resolution.
I don't think there's any verbiage in the resolution regarding like expiration of the site plan.
Not the site plan, but of the agreement with the developers
Oh, yeah.
themselves, so.
Yeah, that we'll have to check on, if we need to update that.
You had mentioned a conversation with our bonding attorney though, and she had said that the way it was written is that we had the ability, you have to say how you said it, because I don't remember exactly, but it was their purview to extend the permit, and then it went back to B&K, and it gives our engineer the ability to extend the permit if nothing has changed, or because nothing on the site plan has changed.
Okay.
So they have the ability to do that.
Okay, but it's also, that'd also be an opportunity for us to revisit that to make sure we're still good with the terms that were placed in that resolution.
Yeah, I mean, if it's required, we can revisit it, but
Okay.
yeah.
And thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah.
Met with County Supervisor Jill Altringer with Katie last Friday morning. Good conversation with her, more or less just a check-in. She goes around and checks in with all of her districts and her cities that she oversees, and if there's anything that we need, and if we can get you, we kind of touched on it earlier with the requests potentially for a mobile speed trailer. I'll defer to Katie if she has anything else to add, but that's it, basically just check in, touch base, and hey, how you doing? So.
Perfect. Okay, Parks met, got the new appointee up to speed on everything. Biggest things they kind of worked on at that meeting are continuing to partner with Ron and Rick on the pond maintenance moving forward, and just having a solid understanding of what that's gonna look like and how they can plug into that specifically. One of the things we're discussing looking forward there is amassing like a volunteer pool, just in general for Parks and Rec activities. And so the possibility that depending on what vegetation requirements and things come out of all of this with the ponds, that's something that we as a city and volunteers can take on in the future, since it is in a park. So, they're working on that. So we just kept them up to speed. When we lost a board member, that meant we lost the liaison that was working with the Memorial Ballpark stuff. So talked as a group about who was going to step up and take over that relationship and continue to build that. Made an assignment there, so that's going to continue as it has been. And then they are hella dedicated to fundraising and grants. So somebody has a really in-depth spreadsheet. I don't know who it is at all. But they're doing a great job at that. They're really exploring, I think, every opportunity possible for the city within the realm of parks to seize grants and utilize those services. So it is wicked impressive to watch them talk through grants, and there's some really cool things in the works, but we're being very intentional about how we move forward so that we don't waste opportunities and that sort of thing. So nothing really finalized to talk about there yet. And most importantly, Sunday is the next Puzzle Palooza. So I haven't heard how many teams have submitted, but I am also a naughty person that just literally messaged Marissa, I think yesterday, and said, hey, I still have not registered my team, but I'm going to be there. So that will be on Sunday here. It's been going well, and they will continue to be receiving feedback from people as far as what other activities people might want to see them sponsor or put on, and that sort of thing. So if you're interested in puzzles, come on Sunday. It'd be cool.
What about bingo night?
Yeah, see, I'm all, there's a million things I can come up with, so I would love for people to start, like, and knowing that in the comp plan conversations that have come up, like, some of the things that people were looking for was recreation for older people and younger people. And so what that might look like, what do people even want? You know, do people want to play chess? Do they want to play bingo? Do they want to, you know, do yoga in the park? What does that look like? And then based on that feedback from you guys, then they can figure out how best to implement those things for us. So excited to see what sort of feedback we continue to get, and then what they do with it, because again, they're super motivated and doing a great job.
Ideas, suggestions, comments, a.shaper@cityofelkhart.com.
Tell me. Or it'll just be more puzzles.
Yes. What time is the puzzle again on?
2? Yeah.
2 to 4.
Let me guess, it's on my calendar that I haven't looked at.
Yep.
It's normal. So,
That's fine.
at least it's there. Somebody knows it's there. So, very good. Thank you, Andy. Mr. Hess.
Okay. I attended a couple of the fire department trainings. The first one was their cold water training, which was probably one of the coldest days of the year that they did that. And then I attended their February 12th meeting, and they did a tabletop of the 2 most recent structure fires, the one on Trent Avenue and the one in the trailer court. I was very impressed with the thoroughness of the training for the cold water, and then more so with the discussion and the interaction between the different fire members in the department. You can tell they've got a good camaraderie, which is important because of the teamwork they need to do there. So been very impressed with what I've observed so far and seen. And it's nice. I shared a document with Ron in Public Works. It was a draft document from the Polk County Emergency Commission, a program document that they have out for review, what they call wild bird high pathogenic Asian influenza bird flu. It provides guidance to cities and municipalities who may find deceased birds or other wildlife that could be attributed to the bird flu. They did, some of the accompanying material did specifically talk about like ponds and parks. And I know we have a pretty good geese population out there from time to time. So I shared that with Ron and Rick and asked them if they need anything further for me to contact this department with, or if they're, I don't know if they need to have like a policy on there, work on a policy for dead animal elimination or disposal, because they did have some guidelines in there that, if it's a one-off, really don't need to contact the DNR. But if you come across like 5 in a certain period of time, that might be indicative of a larger problem. And then they did have some standards in there that talked about, how to tape off the area. Perhaps you have to limit access so there's no cross exposure to humans from the activity. So again, it's in draft form, but they're looking to get that in place come September. Brad, I didn't think, do you want me to shoot you a copy of that?
Sure, yeah.
Okay. So I'll do that. Polk County Emergency Management Commission meets tomorrow. They basically need a representative from each municipality to vote on their budget approval. I reviewed what little information they had in the budget. I didn't see anything alarming on there. And I also completed my conflict of interest statement for the 9/11 service board. So I don't know if they contacted you on that or not. So, but I did that online. So that's it.
Very good. So,
I'll touch on just some brief updates. Like I mentioned earlier, we're meeting on Thursday to go over the water treatment plant valve issues and hopefully put together a plan for this May and June, when we hope to get the water tower, the interior painted. That'll be a big project, taking that offline. So we're meeting with Drey and Kim to discuss the plan for that. I shared, what I have so far for information regarding the legislative bills that have been proposed for property tax reform, and kind of comparing the three from the House, Senate, and the governor's bill. I think they will see components of each three being merged into one final bill. I think that's what they project happening, but the Iowa League's been doing a good job of giving us weekly updates on those. Like Johnny mentioned, we met with Jill Altringer this past week, and so we're hoping to submit a grant application if we need be for the mobile speed radar trailer. Just a quick mention that the ECBC committee did change their monthly meetings to the second Tuesday of each month now. Still at the community center at 7 p.m., but just wanted to make you aware of that. An upcoming policy that I'm working on, Whitfield and Eddie recommended we adopt a public records request policy. So I'm hoping to have that prepared for next month. But that's a few key updates I have.
Quick note on ECBC, since City Festival's coming up and I'm helping with that, volunteering for that, I am attending each of those meetings. So I know there hasn't been anybody from council other than me or you at the meeting. So if anybody can't, I'll be there already. And if you just want me to report back on that, I can do that.
okay. Yeah, I've tried to sit in on some of the past. I know Katie usually does, but I know she's been busy with budget season, some other things going on. So I know I haven't been the last couple either. So, but no, yeah, just give us quick clip notes or at the meeting or at the scheduled meeting. Let us know what's going on. No, thank you.
John, or Kate, when you met with Jill, did the topic come up about the proposal that's in the legislature about the township funds going to the county versus?
No, we didn't talk about that.
Okay. Tell them, keep their hands off.
I'd like to think it wouldn't affect funding a whole lot, but you never know. So, but it is a good thought because our fire, the township.
Well, I mean, it's all about the control. If you don't have control, I won't see quite as much.
Thank you, Katie.
So I've been trying to make payroll more efficient, which didn't go so well. We did actually get the 457B plan implemented and start making contributions to that. And your direct deposit notices should be coming to
Planning and zoning met, a week ago. The only item of business we had was the plat of survey for Jade Sunrise, which you have approved, you have waived your right to review on tonight. And that was our recommendation.
We had deferred to defer, or was that's what you're talking about? No, because,
Yeah, right, covered it.
I don't know why I thought there was additional deferration to discuss.
I'll defer.
Yes.
You defer, and then you said all the first when we come back around, so it's the third defer.
I'm so deferred right now.
Our meeting was much shorter than your meeting that night.
I know you came in and gloated about it. So. No, very good.
You mind if I bring up a couple items?
Go for it.
Circling back to the storm sewer project, so that grant application will due May 1st. And as part of that grant application, they need to have plans submitted with the application. So if you want Misha and Kim to work on those plans, we need to get moving on those rather quickly. I think Katie and I might have had a bit of a miscommunication, but I have an agreement for you guys to review. And I can leave that with you guys if you want to look at it, or I guess you have the electronic copy if you want to send it to them.
Okay.
But if you want us to work on that, we need to get going ASAP, and I don't even know if we wait till next month's meeting, if we have enough time to get that done.
Okay.
So I don't want to force you guys to schedule a special council meeting, but maybe it's something for you guys to think about and discuss.
Is right away needed for that project?
Shouldn't be. Everything should be in the right of way. There might be a couple places where we have some easements we need to look at. But they would be places where there's already storm sewer infrastructure there.
Sure.
So there may already be easements there, or should be, but there shouldn't be anything like brand new. So. And I wouldn't worry about easements until construction starts. I mean.
Yeah, I was just more curious. Maybe I'll take your brain a little bit later.
Yeah.
But
So that's one thing, and another thing, and maybe it's coming up in your budget talk, is I know the railroad sewer crossing is a priority project for council, and that would be an SRF eligible project. The next deadline for application would be March 1st, which we're not gonna hit, but if you wanted to get that in June 1st, it's something you might wanna think about getting going to get that application and facility plan done. If you got that in June 1st, you wouldn't be able to start on a project probably until middle of winter next year at earliest. So depending on how soon you guys want to start on that project, I would recommend thinking about that too.
Is that one good with the stormwater things project?
That was fixing, we're making a new sanitary line, correct? Is
Yeah,
what I'm trying to
yeah, probably boring a new line under the railroad tracks.
Which would require us to get on the phone with the railroad right away.
Yeah, it's gonna be a whole process.
yeah, with that too, there's I don't know if you're aware of Hawkeye Land Company. You've heard of them before.
No.
They bought the mineral rights for a bunch of old railroads. I think it was, the Rockford Railroad. It may have been out here, then UP bought it, but Hawkeye Land Company bought the mineral rights underneath it. And they're kind of to put it nicely, they're a scummy company. They extort people to do projects underneath the railroad. That could be a very lengthy process. I've dealt with them in the past, and sometimes it's been years to get resolutions out of it. So if that is something that we want to do, we should probably start the conversation with that Hawkeye Lane Company. And I can provide contact information that I think I have somewhere in my at work, but.
So they own the mineral rights of this right out here now, they bought it?
Oh yeah, they own this track all north and south through the state. They own the mineral rights.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, huge pain in the butt, but I'll send you the contact information so we can get that going.
Thank you.
Or you can share it to Jordan, whatever you need to.
That's all I got. Thanks.
At this point, we just better build the sewer pipe up and over.
Yeah.
No, probably not. Probably not. Okay, very good. If there's nothing else on that, we will close out number 8. I think there's anything else. Nope. And move on to number 9. TFM, fiscal year 27 budgets.
Hello, everyone. My name is Carrie Swartz. I'm with PFM Financial Advisors. We are your municipal advisors for the city, and we typically do an update for the debt planning models and the water, sewer, stormwater funds around this time every single year. So we'll go through kind of the debt planning models and then also sewer, storm, and water, and what we're recommending for rate increases for this year. So typically you need 3 rate readings, and so we like to do this before the budget, make sure the fiscal year 27 budget that the city provides us, works, and give you recommendations for that. So, you've probably seen Matt before, he's my manager, not available tonight, so you get me instead. So, I'll go through, pretty quickly here, but please stop me if you have any questions, concerns, anything like that. So,
Tell Matt we said.
I will do that. Just table of contents, we'll go through the debt planning models and again, the water, sewer, and stormwater there. So the first debt planning model, it's exhibit 1, is the geodebt capacity, which essentially is a check to say that you have capacity to issue any geodebt. So that is based on your 100% actual valuation of the city. So the 1/125 values came out this year, and you grew about 18.86% in your 100% valuation. So when that goes up, obviously you have more debt capacity. And so we're currently showing the effective debt limit of about 7.4 million. And then we build in all of your existing and then any of your proposed debt as well. So you have about 5.3 million of available debt capacity for fiscal year 27, and that's about 30% capacity there. So anything that is geo, we build in here and just make sure that you have the ability to actually, you have the capacity to be able to fund that. Any questions there? The next 2 sheets, the first sheet is just showing the total sources of your tax analysis, and this is essentially a cash flow of your debt service fund. And so your debt service levy is based on your taxable valuation, not your 100%. So you take your 100%, and then all of the rollbacks are applied to get your taxable. So your total taxable valuation for fiscal year 27 is about 78 million, which was about a 14.7% increase from fiscal year 26 there. Now, we've worked with the city to be able to target a certain city debt levy and a certain total city levy of, I believe it's $12. And so you can see here that your 26 debt service levy was about 1.12 or $1.12. And it's going up to $2.31. Now we are adjusting this to be able to target that certain debt levy. So one thing that the legislature has done is when you grow in your non-TIF taxable valuation, your revenues are actually decreased a certain percentage. So you reach a certain threshold in your non-TIF taxable valuation that your adjusted city general fund levy actually decreased. And so in order to keep that certain debt service, or not debt service, certain city levy at $12, we are adjusting your debt service levy in order to hit that certain amount there. So it's actually really helpful this year to provide some relief in your sewer and your water and your stormwater fund. So you can see here in orange there, we're not having any transfers in from the water, storm, and sewer for general obligation debt. And so that actually kind of provides some relief there on those funds. So this is what we're recommending for the debt service levy. It's what's currently built into the fiscal year 27 budget there. The second page is the uses, so all the expenditures. So what you pay in all of your series, your issuances. So you have a couple outstanding, 2020A, which is for the lagoon, 2020C, and then Geo 2022 as well. You currently, at the end of fiscal year 27, we're projecting you have about 13,000 sitting in your debt service fund. Now, one thing I do want to note is this does not include any of the proposed stormwater phase 2 or 3 projects. I know I worked with Katie a little bit on giving you some options for that, whether that be SRF or whether that be, geo funding. So if you were to levy for these stormwater projects. Phase 2 would be about 72 to 88 cents on your levy. And then phase 2 and 3 combined would be about $1.14 to $1.41 on your debt service levy. Now I'm not including any of this, but I want to make that known. That's the effect that it would have on your debt service levy there.
Karen,
Yes.
under the Geo Series 2020C, your entries stop after 28. So does that mean that's gonna be paid off?
Yeah.
So when the blanks occurs, when payments go?
Yes. Yeah. So your 2020C is starting in 28. Your Lagoon 2038. 22. Your last payments in 2037. Yep. Any questions there on the tax analysis? Okay, moving on, I will just touch on TIF really quickly here. We work with the city in December to determine how much you're asking for in TIF revenues every single year. Our ask was 460,000. So in fiscal year 27, when the numbers, and we base that off the preliminary numbers we get from Polk County, we get final numbers, and so that's what's put in here. So we're projecting your revenues for TIF is 460,000. That's to pay your rebate agreement. So the daycare, the first year of the gas station is projected to be this year, the first payout there, and then some additional loans that are being paid for by TIF as well. So we're showing at the end of fiscal year 27, you have 724,000 sitting in your TIF. I know we've collected ahead for some of those projects. So one thing that, you want to talk about is once you collect all of the debt, money for the debt, you can't collect anymore. And so one consideration I would say for the council is, are there projects that you can put into TIF where you can continue to collect on that increment? Because you do have increment going out until about 2037 there. So any questions on TIF? Okay. The next one is the lost cash flow. So we're showing about 174,000 of projected revenues for fiscal year 27. And the only payment out would be a payment to the debt service fund. So for that Lagoon debt service. I know in the past couple years, we've abated some of the debt service fund and abated some of those payments through lost. So you can see there, like in 25, there was some larger transfers out there as well. So we're showing at the end of 2027 that you have about 277,000 sitting in your lost fund. Any questions there? Okay. Moving on to water. I'll kind of go over how the cash flow works a little bit. And it's the same for water and sewer and stormwater, how it's formatted and everything like that. So I'll go over water and then kind of touch on a couple highlights for sewer and stormwater. So on the top right-hand corner here, we show historical and then projected rate increases. Now for water, the city was required to pass an ordinance going out to 2031 in order to issue the Series 2023 bonds. So right now you have an ordinance passed for 9% starting, I believe it was some of the 12% were also included in that as well. But we are showing 9% starting in July 1st of 2026 through July 1st of 2031. Now looking at how your ending cash came out and a couple other factors that we'll talk about, we are recommending to actually increase that to a 12% increase this year. So the two main things that we look at when determining your rates is number one, your debt service coverage. So any SRF loans are revenue loans. You have to have a certain debt service coverage. So it means your net revenues have to be 110% of your debt service payment for that year. And so we need a budget and make sure that your net revenues, so your total operating revenues minus your operating expenses, is 110% of that debt payment. The other thing that we also look at mainly is your ending cash balance as well. We don't want a huge deficit one year, we don't want a huge surplus another, and so trying to balance that. And so that's kind of where we got to the 12%. Now looking down the cash flow, we have the actual rates in lines 1 through 9 there. So you have a meter charge and then you have a per 1,000 gallon charge as well. Your number of meters did increase about 17 meters between fiscal year 24 and 25. We're showing about a 20 person meter growth each year, and that projects all the way out. In that green box there is the average customer bill. That's about 4,500 gallons. And so that kind of shows what your average resident would pay for water each month. So currently, we're in fiscal year 26 right now. That's about $53.73. With the 12% rate increase, that would go up to $60.17, which is about a $650 increase. Yeah.
Karen, I noticed that our monthly quarterly base charge on the first 3,000 gallons.
Mm-hmm.
I was looking at some other cities around, it's like Polk cities is at 2,000. Mitchellville might have been around that. So how did we settle on the 3,000?
I have not been around long enough to have looked at those rates. It may have been based off of, rates around the metro. I am quite honestly not really sure. And sometimes when I ask cities, they're like, we don't know. It's always been like that, right? Some things that we do for cities is what's called a rate study. It's a really in-depth analysis of every single customer. And it looks at who puts the most pressure on your system. And so then we determine what that right rate structure is for who puts the most pressure on your system. Now I will say most cities around the metro don't have an inclusive of 3,000 gallons or anything. It's usually if you use more than 0, you're starting to pay that charge. So it's something we can definitely talk about if the city is interested in doing that.
I was just curious, what our breakdown is, how many are less than 1,000, less than 2, less than 3. I mean, you've got the average in there of 4,500, which quite to be honest with you, kind of surprised me. That's more than I was expecting, but
yeah,
I was just wondering if we had, if it's possible that we look at that 3,000 and adjust that number down, or just we've got a charge per 1,000. And that's what the 3,000 comes to is 3 times the 1,000 rate. Do we just charge by the 1,000 and simplify it a little bit?
It's something to look into in the future. I mean, not during the current budget season and everything like that, but potentially in the future, yeah.
So, well, I mean, we're coming up to renew the ordinance on the water rate increases. I think that would be the time to look at it.
What, in your opinion, of what he's discussing, what would the benefit of that be? Would it help avoid future rate increases by potentially getting more funding from the higher users?
So typically when we have like a minimum monthly bill, it's called a fixed charge. And so the more that you have in fixed, the less variable your revenue is based on usage. And you can see actually, and I have it highlighted here in line 14, your usage went down about 6% in fiscal year 25. And so that's another reason why we're recommending that 12% rate increase, because when your usage decreases, that flows through your entire cash flow, right? And so we had been projecting out a 1.5% usage increase every year, but when it decreases 6% and then you build 1.5 off of that, that flows through everything, right? And so, you know, we had a 9%, but one of the main reasons why we're recommending a 12% is because your usage went down. And so you need to make up those revenues somewhere else, right? So either decrease expenses or increase your revenues. And so I know Katie has worked really hard on, you know, trying to make the expenses as low as possible, but you can only allocate what you can, and make sure that everyone's still paid, things are still running, so.
Yeah, we could take a look potentially. My assumption would be that the hydro seeding company leaving the industrial area would probably be a large driver of that 6% decline.
Okay.
But we could probably look at their bills or their former bills and study that if we needed to. So
Yeah,
given that large of a user has left, does that still line up with your rate increase percentages, assuming, because they won't be here next year because they're not in business anymore. So that decrease wouldn't be realized again because they're not leaving twice.
okay.
So I'm
And
just kind of
so-
curious what your thoughts are.
Yeah, so that happened in fiscal year 25, correct?
That would be, we'd have to look at the water bills. That's what I meant by determining the exact date. But yeah, it should have fallen somewhere in there. It was in 2024 at some point when they left.
Okay,
So,
it was also a pretty wet year in
mhm.
fiscal year 25 as well, so that can also have contributed to it. We
Yeah.
saw a lot of people, I mean, in the metro, when there was the irrigation ban, I know you didn't
Mhm.
have one, but we saw a lot of cities have a decrease in their usage this year, and part of it was.
It makes sense. I just think it would be curious to look into that to see, because then maybe, you know, not that, because you're forecasting a 1.5% growth in usage, it may actually be more than that without another large drop like that as well. So we
Yeah.
may be able to stay at the 9% as opposed to going up to 12. Is what I'm getting at is I would like to stave off any more rate increases if there's possible ways to do that, and if the idea of looking into you pay for what you use versus the minimums and all that, if that could affect that as well, that'd be interesting. And
Yeah, and I can look at also the year-to-date usage. That usually also kind of gives us
Okay.
and I did in sewer, I didn't in water, but I can certainly look and see where you're at year-to-date. I
Okay.
know you're up about 2.5% in sewer, so hopefully we should see that in water as well.
Yeah.
But again, I'm not sure that will 100% offset that 12%. But I can certainly look
I
into
appreciate that.
what that
Where I-
year-to-date usage is.
Where I was coming from on that, Brad, wasn't so much as, you know, a revenue generator for the city, but looking at more as a fairness aspect.
Oh, that's what I meant.
Yeah, I mean, if, you know, if you're a single person or a two-person
Correct.
household, you know, you're not using 3,000 gallons of water a month, so you're helping subsidize someone who is using 3,000. And just, you know, offer a little bit, it's not much, but a little bit of a cost savings to the people who are the more prudent users of the water. Not.
Yeah, it's possible. I mean, my main question tailing off of that is,
Revenue.
if you look at the fiscal year 2022 to 2023 average customer bill, and then you fast forward your brain to fiscal year 3035, 3036, those are our water bills too, right? And looking at a change from $38.26 in 2022 to 104.20 projected in 2035. Granted, that's a lot of fiscal years, but those rate increases add up extremely fast, and that's, yeah, anything we can do to dull that increase. Now, granted, a lot of it is catching up and redoing infrastructure, and we need a new water mains, and we need, you know, there's a lot of improvements that were maybe put off for a long time. So I guess it's justifiable, but at the same time, anything we can do as a council to lower those increases, I'd be in favor of it. If
slow them down.
Yeah, slow them down at least. Yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely.
and one of the reasons we have those 9% was because we needed to hit that coverage
Oh
for
yeah.
the series. So in some ways you are a little bit locked in
Yep.
to make sure that you do hit those legal requirements
Correct.
from the SRF. So we're limited in that aspect,
yeah.
but it's certainly something that we can look at. The other thing that I'm just noticing here is you have what's called an equivalent volume ratio. So meaning that you have a different meter charge for each meter. However, when you look at like a 5/8 meter, which would be like in a typical household versus like a 4-inch meter or a 6-inch meter, those can pump about 27 to 50 times the amount that a regular residential user 5/8 inch uses, right? And so there's a lot of times where we'll take that equivalent ratio and take, okay, what's the typical 5/8 meter, and then multiply it by that certain ratio. And yours does increase by meter size. However, it's not as aggressive as what I would typically see based on those American Water Association standards and that typical ratio as well. So
Given the history, you had asked, why was it the 3,000 gallons? That was before my time, and I've been on council for 6 years. And previous, I believe it was 2020, when I first started, we were not in compliance at that time because the rates increases were not quick enough. And then the infrastructure projects were taken on. So when Matt met with us the first time, we were not in compliance with that 110 at all. I think it was like a 0.8 or 0.7. And so the rate increase that you can see that kicked in back then, the 21% and then a 10% and another 10%, that was to try to play catch up to get back into compliance. So if there needs to be some thought put into multiple different things, we would take those suggestions and I think we could definitely field those at a very soon council meeting and make those changes if we need to.
Yeah, and I will say I'll need to talk to Matt about it, but we don't have to do also a full blown rate study. Those usually take 6 to 12 months. We can definitely give some suggestions on what we think may be helpful, but until we totally dig into the data, we're not exactly sure who puts the most pressure. I mean, we can guess, right? But you'll be surprised sometimes.
Right, but earlier you heard a conversation about potential new industrial park development and the desire for people to come in quickly. So I think having something planned out ahead of time for those, we'll call them super users, because most industrial applications are super users. It would be good to have that study done, or at least gather as much information as possible.
For sure, and those people who are putting in those 3, 4, 6-inch meters.
That's what I meant,
who are gonna put pressure on your system.
Yeah, one thing that Matt had always showed us in the past too is kind of where our rates hit the rest of the metro cities and kind of what the averages were. So if we're low on our super users rates, I think that's worth looking into.
I would say in terms of your regular average customer bill, you're kind of right in the middle there.
That's usually where we've been.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of people are playing catch up like you are right now. And so I wouldn't say $60 is, I mean, it's a lot, but in comparison to Senior Water, who pays $130, you're definitely not at the top end. You're probably around the middle. And we have that data. That's something that you're interested in, that you'd like us to share. We can definitely share that with the council.
I think that helps us make informed decisions. That would be appreciated as well. We've had that in the past too, so that'd be good to see it again.
On line 19, for connection fees, you have zeros across the board. So, I mean, we have development going on, so.
Yeah, this is per the internal documents. So I'm not sure how that's put in. It could be put into the miscellaneous revenues, but that's just what we're seeing in our internal.
My knowledge of that is that we have one connection fee district right now, and it was the new water main that was run out to the industrial, and it's running through that area that is yet to be developed. So as soon as that's developed, then we would start to get some connection fees from that.
So the cornfield connection?
Yeah, essentially, that was supposed to reimburse for that project at some point, which was 700 and whatever.
So, but it isn't just a generalized connection fee. If I built a house, I need water.
Correct. That's different. That's not a connection fee district, correct?
Yeah, this is that's under miscellaneous revenue when someone sets up their account.
That's when that connection fee line popped up, is when we put in that district out in the Kimberly development area, just straight west of here. Yep. Nobody's built there yet.
But it was gonna pay for itself in 3 years.
If it's in bucks for candy.
Okay, so if you flip to the next page, I'll touch on a couple more items here. Your revenue for debt service, that's the amount that we're looking at needs to be 110 times, your revenue debt payment. On line 33. Then we have built in all of your debt. So you have a couple water revenue debts outstanding, series 2021 and series 2023, and then geo abatement. So a portion of your general obligation bond is being paid for by water. Now you can see in 27 that's zero. Going back to what we talked about on your tax analysis, we're not showing any transfer from water into the debt service fund in fiscal year 27. So that does provide a little bit of $23,000 of relief there. Looking at your debt service coverage on line 40, currently, you had budgeted for a 110 debt service coverage in fiscal year 26. However, right now, because of that decrease in usage, we are showing that you're about 1.01 times. And so we need to make sure that moving forward that we budget for a 110, and it's okay if, 1 year you don't hit it, right? But you can't consistently not hit it, and we need to make sure that our budget for fiscal year 27 is in compliance for that. So you can see for fiscal year 27, we're projecting a 1.21 times debt service coverage, so we're good on that front for the fiscal year 27 budget that Katie has built in there. At the end of fiscal year 25, we're showing about 170,000 in your ending cash. In fiscal year 27, we're showing that to be about 196,000, which is approximately a $6,000 surplus in fiscal year 27. Now with projects and stuff coming up, and also the volatility of how the water usage has been, I think that's a good place to be for fiscal year 27 there. One of the other things that we look at when we're looking at your ending cash balance is line 52 there, which takes your cash balance as a percentage of your operating and maintenance expenses. And we try to have that be around 50 to 100%. And you can see that it starts to decrease there as you move further out to 2032. So that's the other reason why I feel comfortable with a $6,000 surplus in fiscal year 27, or we're budgeting for that, because we want to stay as close to that 50 to 100% as possible for your cash balance, in case anything happens. Any questions there? Okay. Moving on to sewer, it is set up very similarly. So we are showing a 8% rate increase, and that's what we're recommending for fiscal year 27. So your average customer bill on line 5 would be approximately $55.29 with that 4,500 gallons there. So that's about a $2.76 increase to your average monthly bill. Looking at fiscal year 25, your sewer usage went down almost 10%. And that makes sense with the large industrial user moving out. Now, year to date, it is up 2.5%, which is what I have built in. And then moving forward after that, I have 1.5%. But that really put a damper on your revenues for fiscal year 25, along with some of the billing issues that you had. So you can see on line 11, your operating revenues for fiscal year 25 was almost 8% lower than it was the year before. Now you had lower operating expenses, however, those things kind of accumulate. So looking at revenue available for debt service, if you flip to the next page, you had about 130 or 131,000 available, which was a 1.58 times debt service coverage for fiscal year 25. Now, because of going back to that huge sewer usage decrease for fiscal year 26, we're showing 0.89 for your debt service coverage. So your net operating revenues aren't covering your revenue debt payment for fiscal year 26. In 27, we are right on the line to hit debt service coverage at 110. I mean, we are within $1,000 of budgeting to make sure that we hit that 1 times coverage and that we're compliant in that aspect. So we're really close on this, which makes me a little bit nervous, I'll be honest. But you can see moving further out that debt service coverage does increase there. Now, one thing that I've talked to the city about is right now we're not transferring any money into the debt service fund for that Series 22. We haven't for this year for the projected fiscal year 27, and I don't think you should continue to for the next couple years to kind of play catch up on your sewer fund to help, bolster that cash balance, and make sure that you're in a good spot with that. So at the end of fiscal year 25, your ending cash balance was 20,000. At the end of fiscal year 26, we're projecting your ending cash balance to dip below 0 to about negative 6,000. So we want to make sure that we have a good surplus in fiscal year 27. So we're showing about 8,000 there and then building up from there. In 25, I know there were a couple transfers made to make sure that all of your restricted funds are in good shape as well. So there was a negative $130,000 in your sewer lagoon facility fund. I think, at least from what I know, those costs exceeded what was expected and what you had drawn for that issue and for that loan. And so we have made sure to kind of play catch up on that as well. And so all your restricted funds are back to a solid place as well. But your sewer fund has a lot of pressure on it, especially because of that large decrease in sewer usage this past year. So we're recommending the 8% rate increase for that. Any questions on sewer?
Is that negative 3% trigger any sort of scrutiny from any oversight areas or? Line 46.
So typically you want to have above a 0.
Right.
Some cities, when you're in that position, will do like an internal loan. If an auditor came in, they would definitely tell you need to do some sort of internal loan to make sure that cash balance is above 0. It's not unknown. It's not that I haven't seen it. But if you do get to a position at the end of the year where your sewer fund is negative, I would recommend, if you have the ability to do an internal loan, that you do that to show on the books that your sewer fund is at least at 0.
Okay. But if it is below 0, does it trigger anything from a state level?
No, not unless you're audited, and not unless the SRF, I would say, comes looking. Now, usually they do that every 5 years, so we still have a couple years, between the 2022 loan where they would, ask for a copy of the cash flow to make sure that you're in compliance. But as long as we're making sure that we're budgeting for that 110 coverage, that's really what we can do right now. So yeah.
So two quick questions, Deb. Are you comfortable kind of keeping an eye on that as far as that internal loan process goes to make sure we're compliant at the end of the year.
We need to do a transfer probably.
Okay, yeah, just keep us posted on that. And then you had shown the rate increase for this year of 8%. Is there any benefit to potentially exploring higher than 8% to offset some of that? I know we're talking about the current fiscal year, not the future fiscal year, but to keep you a little bit more comfortable, you said we're within $1,000 of the 110.
Yeah.
You know, would you be willing to show us what maybe a 9 or 10% would look like as far as your comfort levels there?
I would certainly, if you're willing to do above 8%, I would 100% go for it. We had shown 5% last year, but with the decrease in usage and how that flows through, we had kind of talked as, with city staff and determined to show an 8. But if you are comfortable with going higher, I would do it.
The goal would be going higher now to potentially go lower later, right? And go 9 or 10% now as hypothetical numbers, of course. Yeah. And then looking forward, once that fund recovers, and we'll call it fiscal year 29, looks like it's had a pretty good recovery. Maybe instead of 5% that year, maybe it's 2 or 3.
Yeah.
Something lower to offset that in the future.
And I can certainly send over what those rates look like if we did a 9 to 10% rate increase, and what those average monthly bills would look like.
Any reason why it's always a whole number, not an 8.5 or a 9.25 or?
We usually try and round it for ease and for just talking points. It's not like unheard of that we have done a half. But usually we try and round up if we can. So. And with how tight your coverage is, we rounded up for that.
Yeah. But yeah, if you could get that to us in time, I would really appreciate that.
Yeah. Yeah, I can definitely show a 9 to 10%. And show what that looks like.
Thank you.
Yep, absolutely. Moving on to stormwater, if there's no other questions for sewer. So currently your residential monthly fee for ERU is $7. We are recommending a 25 cent rate increase for fiscal year 27. And that is double for the non-residential ERU. So $14.50 is what we're recommending for fiscal year 27 there. Now this is really, I would say for the most part, a pass-through fund where other than your projects, we try and have it pay for itself, the revenues come in, your expenditures come out. And so for fiscal year 27, we're showing your operating revenues be about 55,000, your operating expenses about 25,000, and then the rest is basically being paid through your debt service. Now, I will note that this doesn't include any of the potential stormwater loans. In terms of what that would do to your rates, if you did phase 2, your residential ERU would be between $14.50 to $16.25, so about a 100% increase in that. If you're doing phase 2 and 3 together, your residential ERU would be about $19 to $21. Depending on your funding mechanism and everything like that. So that's not showing any of that potential stormwater debt. Now I know you're looking at CBDG and different options like that. This is really just our recommendation to keep you at a good cash balance for the stormwater fund.
Those projections, are those figured with no funding secured, no grants?
Correct, yep. So if you did have a CBDG,
That would lower those numbers.
that would lower that. So that would be the full amount of phase 2 or phase 2 and 3 together. Yeah.
And this might be a question for three different people. Are we going to have the answers on that funding in time before the budgets are due? The CBDG grant and stormwater funding, and I know you mentioned the due dates a little bit ago, Jordan, but I mean, in time, when is budget certification, right?
I
Katie?
mean, yeah, we won't have an answer by then. We have to certify our budget by April 30th.
So so we'd have to do an amendment then,
Right.
once that funding came through and readdress the conversation at that point. Okay, no, that makes sense. Just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah. So that's why we didn't show it in.
Yeah,
here
that makes
because-
sense.
And CBDG, quite honestly, I've heard from a lot of cities has been really slow. So
figure.
I don't know if you've had that same
Yeah,
experience,
I mean, we
but
won't find out on the first round until probably July.
So I thought you said late summer at one point. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's why I was wondering. I knew we weren't gonna hit this year's
yeah,
budget.
and that's just your funding for the
Right.
grant funding. That's not including any other
Right.
funding, planning and design, all of that kind of stuff that factors in.
Amendment items. Yeah.
So.
Okay. Good to know.
So for fiscal year 27, we're showing about a $2,000 surplus, which is in line 37 there for an ending cash balance of $77,751. I know that was a lot.
That.
It always is.
These are great presentations.
Thank you.
So,
we do this every year, so, you know, anything that comes up, any projects, we build into these cash flows. So when you were talking about stormwater, I ran some scenarios for Katie, she passed along to council, so any of those, updates that we do this throughout the year, it's not just once a year, but hopefully that kind of gives you an overview of your utility funds and everything like that. And I'll follow up with Katie on those couple changes. So you can look at those higher rate increases possibly for sewer.
And the beginning of that was like kind of we'll call them the super user conversation as well, to see kind of what those rates look like, and that'd be great to have.
Yeah. And I can certainly send along some of the American Water Association guidelines or recommendations of what they typically do. That may not be like a full-blown rate study.
Yeah, that's fine. I think it's important to keep noting that judging by the projections, we're in kind of the second to last year of the catch-up phase. And eventually it'll start to level out a little bit because we won't have as many infrastructure projects, because the flooding concern's been a flooding concern in town for how many years? All the years probably. If we can get that cleaned up and with the new water treatment plant online and the expenses from that. And then obviously once 2038 rolls around and the lagoon falls off, we're gonna have another lagoon on there before that, and we're gonna have to consider how that all fits in as well as population goes up. So
First time I was on council, I came across a plan to move the stormwater that was dated from 76. So,
yeah.
so the same path, by the way.
Yeah. Well, the earth hasn't shifted that much. So
I just worked on a city who hadn't increased their water rates in 25 years. So
what?
Yeah. It definitely wasn't top of mind. And when Chad came in and we started looking at that first year that Matt came, it was like, oh boy.
Yeah.
I mean, you saw one of their rate increases was 95% on the stormwater, because no one had, anyways.
And some
I
people just
digress.
don't touch it, you know?
Yeah,
So,
it'd be great if the city didn't flood.
that's certainly one reason why we like to look at it every year.
Yeah.
Of things like usage changes, or, you know, you add a project or whatever that may be.
Yeah, and we appreciate the partnership. Thank you for all the work that you put in. It is greatly appreciated, and we look forward to continuing with you guys. So, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Very good. Okay, with all that said and done, on to number 10. Before we do that, I just had a note here really quick. I just want to say thank you for everybody for being in attendance this evening. I will apologize for the commotion that happened earlier in the meeting. In my opinion, unacceptable. Just because you haven't been here doesn't mean you haven't been paying attention or being involved in some capacity, way, shape, or form. We have countless posts that go out. We have the meetings that I record and post and are available for review and everything. So just because you're not here doesn't mean you're not paying attention. You're not up to speed on what's going on. So involvement starts somewhere. When I moved to town, I said, hey, I'm going to come to meetings and be involved in my small town. That was 4 years, and then I ran for mayor. But you got to start somewhere, and anybody can start somewhere. So for those of you who are here, I know we had a couple folks that had to dip out earlier. I understand that. Thank you guys for being here. Thank you for being involved. Thank you for watching, and thank you for being part of this community. We appreciate it. So now that I've stepped off my soapbox on number 10, adjournment, motion second.
Motion.
Second.
Empty. Fordyce.
I know.